Hello, sir. Hello, classmates. My report is all about virtuous excellence. Before anything else, we will know first what is virtue. So, virtue is the quality of being morally good. The word virtue comes from the Latin word vir for man. At first, virtue made manlines or valor, but over time it settled into the sense of moral excellence. Virtue can also mean excellence in general. For example is honesty, courage, integrity, compassion, generosity, self-control, and prudence are all examples of virtues. The virtuous person is the ethical person. Achieving the highest purpose of a human person concerns the ability to function according to the reason and to perform an activity well or excellently. This excellent way of doing things is called virtue or art by the Greeks. Aristotle is quick to add that virtue is something that one strives for in time. One does not become an excellent person overnight, for one swallow does not make a summer, nor does one day. And so, too, one day, or a short time, does not make a man blessed and happy. This means that being virtuous cannot be accomplished by a single act. Kapuri-puri kung ang isang minor de edad na kalahok sa isang krimen ay naging isang wizard blower na inilalantad ang lahat ng mga libingan or libangan na ginawa ng kanyang mga cohort. But one should be careful in judgment of calling immediately that individual as being a person of virtue. Being an excellent individual works on doing well in her day-to-day existence. Now, what exactly makes a human excellent? Aristotle says that excellent is an activity of a human soul, and therefore one needs to understand the very structure of a person's soul, which must be directed by her rational activity in an excellent way. So, ang sabi daw ni Aristotle, ang mahusay ay isang aktibidad ng kaluluwa ng tao at sa makatwid, kailangang maunawaan ng isang tao ang mismong istruktura ng kaluluwa ng isang tao na dapat idirekta ng kanyang nakapangangatwiran na aktibidad sa isang mahusay na paraan. Para kay Aristotle, the human soul is divided into two parts, the irrational element and the rational faculty. The irrational part, in turn, is composed of two subparts, the vegetative and appetitive aspects. Vegetative aspects is a function as giving nutrition and providing the activity of physical growth in a person. Ito yung gumaganap bilang pagbibigay nutrisyon at pagbibigay ng aktibidad ng paglago ng physical sa isang tao. And for the appetitive aspects, it is the act of desiring in itself is an impulse that naturally runs counter to reason and most of the time refuses to go along with reason. Ito naman yung kilos ng pagnanais sa sarili. For example is sexual impulse. It is so strong in a person that one tends to ignore reasonable demands to control such impulse. However, unlike the vegetative aspect, the desiring faculty of man can be subjected to reason. Sabi nga ni Aristotle, now, even this seems to have a share in the rational principle. As we said, At any rate, in the continent man, it obeys the rational principle. Ang mga pagnanasa ay napapailalim sa katwiran, kahit ang mga ito ay hindi nagmumula sa makatwirang bahagi ng kaluluwa. Next is the rational faculty. It is from this faculty that we gain our cognitive powers, our abilities to reason and to be rational. Ito ay mula sa mga faculty or mga tao na nakukuha natin ng ating mga nagbibigay malay na kapangyarihan, ating mga kakayahan na mga katwiran at maging makatwiran. In contrast, the rational faculty of man exercises excellence in him. This faculty is further divided into two aspects. First is moral aspects and the intellectual aspects. Moral aspects is which concerns the act of doing, while the intellectual is concerns the act of knowing. These two aspects are basically where the function of reason is exercised. One rational aspect where a person can attain excellence is in the intellectual faculty of the soul. As stated by Aristotle, this excellence is attained through teaching. Through time, natututo ang isang tao mula sa maraming karanasan sa buhay, kung saan nakakakuha siya ng kaalaman sa mga bagay na to. At ang iba naman ay natututo at nakakakuha ng karunungan sa pamamagitan ng pagtuturo o sa pamamagitan ng pag-aaral. Now, there are two ways can attain the intellectual excellence. First is philosophic wisdom, and the second one is practical wisdom. Philosophic wisdom deals with attaining knowledge about the fundamental principles and truths that govern the universe. It helps one understand, in general, the meaning of life. Ito yung pagkakaroon ng kaalaman tungkol sa pangunahing mga prinsipyo at katotohanan na namamahala sa universe. Next is practical wisdom. Is an excellence in knowing the right conduct in carrying out a particular act. In other words, one can attain a wisdom that can provide us with a guide on how to behave in our daily lives. So ito daw yung kahusayan sa pag-alam ng tamang pag-uugali sa pagsasagawa ng isang partikular na bagay o kilos. Sa madaling salita, makakamit ng isang tao ang karunungan na maaaring magbigay sa atin ng isang gabay sa kung paano kumilos sa ating pang-araw-araw na buhay. Although ang kondisyon sa pagiging excellent ay makamit sa isang tao sa pamamagitan ng intellectual aspect of the soul, ang sitwasyong ito ay hindi gumagawa para magiging isang mabuting tao o individual. However, Aristotle suggests that although the rational functions of a person, the moral and intellectual, are distinct from each other, it is necessary for humans to attain the intellectual virtue of practical wisdom in order to accomplish a morally virtuous act. Now, Aristotle says that this is why some say that all the virtues are forms of practical wisdom, and why Socrates, in one respect, was on the right track while in another he went astray. In thinking that all the virtues were forms of practical wisdom, he was wrong, but in saying they implied practical wisdom, he was right. This is confirmed by the fact that even now, all men, when they define virtue, after naming the state of character and its object, add that state which is in accordance with the right rule. Now the right rule is that which is in accordance with practical wisdom. All men, the somehow to divine that this kind of state is virtue, that which is in accordance with practical wisdom. Tila para kay Socrates, ang kabutihang moral ay nasa loob ng larangan ng kahusayan sa intelektual. Knowing the good implies the ability to perform morally virtuous acts. Para naman kay Aristotle, kung saan ang pagkakaroon ng intellectual excellence ay hindi ibig sabihin na ito ay patuloy na pagkakaroon ang isang tao ng kapasidad ang nagawin ang mabuti. Knowing the good that needs to be done is different from doing the good that one needs to accomplish. Therefore, a rational faculty of a person tells us that she is capable of achieving two kinds of virtue, which is moral and intellectual. Aristotle says that it is attained by means of habit. A morally virtuous man, for Aristotle, is someone who habitually determines the good and does the right actions. Moral virtue is acquired through habit. Being morally good is a process of getting used to doing the proper act. The saying, practice makes perfect, can be applied to this aspect of a person. So therefore, for Aristotle, a person is not initially good by nature. Again, of all the things that come to us by nature, we first acquire the potentially and later exhibit the activity. This is plain the case of senses, for it was not by often seeing or often hearing that we got these senses, but on the contrary, we had them before we used them, and did not come to have them by using them, but the virtues we get by first exercising them, as also happens in the case of the arts as well, for the things we have to learn before we can do them, we learn by doing them, according to Aristotle. Ang anumang pabor na ginagawa ng isang tao ay maaaring maging perpekto sa pamamagitan ng nakagawian na paggawa ng tamang aksyon na kinakailangan upang maging mabuti sa isang partikular na pabor. For example, is being a good basketball player involves constant training and endless hours of shooting and dribbling the ball in the right way until one habitually does the right stroke in shooting the ball at the right tempo in the dribbling the ball. It is only when she properly plays basketball consistently that she will be recognized as a good player. Tama nga naman, same with moral virtue. A moral person habitually chooses the good and consistently does good deeds. Ito yung palagiang paggawa o pagpili ng isang mabuti na ang isang tao ay nakakagawa ng sariling karakter o ugali. That's all about my report. Thank you for watching and listening. Take care and God bless everyone.